Today we have Tracy Ragland. She is one of our members, and she joined in 2017, and she's going to tell us about this project that she has great interest in. So please welcome Tracy.
Thank you. Let me get this going. Okay, so I think that'll probably work for hearing, right? Okay. The Green Man. This is one that I made. I've been interested in the Green Man for a long time. He's little. He's up here, if you want a better look. But, so what is the Green Man? It's fascinated me for years. It's just folk art and folk tales and folklore. And if you look up in a number of churches across Europe, you look up carved into the rafters, you can see images of the Green Man from medieval churches. And you might see one, but are they Christian? Are they pagan? Both? There's really no definitive answer. The earliest examples, this is one of the early ones, can be found in, okay, forgive my pronunciation, Herefordshire, where there was a school in the Middle Ages for stonemasons. And that's where some of the earliest ones can be found. The work of the masons can be found across Europe as their skills were in demand as churches became more and more elaborate during the Romanesque and the Gothic periods. So that's basically the 10th through the early 16th centuries. So the Green Man, or the foliate head, as a somewhat human visage surrounded by leaves and vines. In later carvings, the face itself is made up of leaves, and the heads vary greatly. This very stern-faced example is found in Tong village in Shropshire in the UK. And he's not a very friendly-looking guy. This one, which is a more refined image, is from France, and Église Saint-Omer de Croix de Preux. I got coaching from Gwynellen on the French. So, and while I was looking into the origins of the Green Man, I found references to Lady Julia Raglan, the wife of the Earl of Raglan. Some distant relative, very, very distant. My father's side of the family does come from southeast Wales in Monmouthshire. There's a Raglan Castle. It's a listed ruin. But we've all been on this continent for 300 years, so I don't know her at all. She was an amateur folklorist, and she published in 1939, just before World War II broke out, or while it was breaking out, she published an essay called The Green Man in Church Architecture. She'd seen an image of the Green Man in a church near her home in Llangwm, and posited in Wales, so that it was a relic of pre-Christian or pagan spirituality, the old ways, maybe relating to Jack of the Green or even Robin Hood. Lady Raglan was wrong. While her coined name Green Man has stuck, the carved foliate heads were initially carved as an element of Christian symbolism, at least initially. And she apparently didn't even coin the term Green Man. That we found some earlier references to a Green Man. The church, so why is it not just purely a pagan image that's carried on? Well, the churches that they're found in were built after England was firmly Christianized. At least 300 years after the Norman invasion overtook Anglo-Saxon paganism. So could they be there to woo unchurched heathens to church? Probably not. They'd have to go into the church to see them, so There are a few on the outsides of churches. Could they be attempts by locals to subtly protest against the Norman conquest? It's probably unlikely, considering that the churches were built with the funds and under the oversight of a Norman baron or bishop. So the Masons, wanting to get paid, probably wouldn't have done that. There are many Christian references to nature. Long before the Normans arrived, the Anglo-Saxons were combining trees with scripture, their scripture. The Dream of the Rood tells of the life of a tree that became the cross on which Christ was crucified. The Kabbalah tells of Seth, one of Adam's sons, who returns to the Garden of Eden and plants seeds. The seeds grew and became the burning bush, became Moses' staff, and then ended up as the pillars of Solomon's temple. Were the carvings intended to represent the tree of life? Some people think the green man represents God in nature, perhaps to remind workers that the crops around them were also for them, first for the baron, but they could have what was left. So, I apparently hit something that I didn't think I was going to. Let me go back. Okay. All right, so this guy. This is one of my favorites. There are so many thousands of images that you can find if you start looking on the web, but a whole lot of them are pictures taken by people who didn't find it necessary to identify the church or where they were found. So I didn't include them. I only included ones that I had references to. This one is found in St. Botolph's Church in Lincolnshire. And this is a much more well-known example that's found on the outside of Bamberg Cathedral in Germany. And this one, I'd seen it before I ever started studying the topic. So, let's see. I had to start typing about 11:30 last night because I couldn't read my notes, so I typed until the wee hours. And as time went on, the foliate heads started being carved from wood, appearing on misericords and other church furniture, benches, and so forth. This one is on a bench in Crosscombe Church in Somerset. And this one is on a misericord in Durham Cathedral. Okay, let's see. Oh, this one is in my kitchen. And I bought him in Italy 25 years ago. And it's ceramic, and I toted it at home very, very, very carefully. So I think we're going to end up now with a video. So what do I do next? Okay. Yes, just visit. This guy, I had leftover clay from another project, so I put the face in a mold, and then I started cutting out painting and cutting out leaves and stuff. And it actually got published. I sent it into Somerset Studio magazine, and it got published last year, I think it was. So that was pretty exciting. So they don't pay for publishing. It's just the glory of it, I guess. So. Sorry.
As you leave the nave, you enter through this wonderful Gothic archway down this corridor, and the first thing you notice are the backlit stained glass windows, each with their own narrative. But above them and around them you can see these wonderful gargoyles and grotesque masks and clusters of foliate work, all hand-carved by the stonemasons, punctuating the architecture. But there's a bigger surprise waiting for us just around the corner. And this is it, the octagon, known because it has 8 sides to this room. It was built in 1288. And as you can see, the ceiling soars high to the heavens and the light comes flooding in. It's known as the chapter house, and it's a meeting room. But if you get over that and you look at the detail on the wall, in the stone itself, you can see the work of a master stonemaker. He's made stone come alive.
My face in the foliage, you've seen that face before.
If you look closely, you can see faces peering down at you from between the foliage.
I'm the power in the puzzle.
This image of a mysterious, at times frightening man in the trees is what came to be known as the Green Man.
I'm the Green Man, don't turn.
Well, I've counted 15 of them. Now the question is, who was the Green Man and what's he doing here? And why are there so many of them?
If you cut me down, I'll spring back.
This ancient image is thought to have its roots in pagan beliefs, dating as far back as 3000 BC. But it's Dr. Colin Harris who has had a lifelong obsession with the Green Man who can shed more light on him. So who was the Green Man?
Simply a concept which was absorbed by the early church about the spirit of nature, about the spirit of birth, life, death and rebirth, which people felt a great oneness with, particularly when you consider that England was covered largely in forest. From Bath to Nottingham, a squirrel would never have to jump on the ground. In most religions and in most continents, for many thousands of years, the Green Man, as we now call him, has been an integral part of our oneness with the Mother Earth.
So the Green Man is venerated all over the world?
Absolutely.
The Green Man was a revered spirit, worshipped as a symbol of renewal, rebirth and regeneration, but he also found his way into more common beliefs.
There are also this link, this secular link with our folklore, our customs, our traditions, that the Green Man popped up as parts of festivals.
Through Anglo-Saxon times and to the present day, the Green Man appeared in old stories, customs and characters like Jack in the Green and Jack the Lad. Even the myth of Robin Hood may have emerged out of beliefs in a gift-giving Green Man.
It's quite an interesting story that the Green Man, this kind, benevolent, overarching concept in our lives, became a very important person like Robin Hood.
It was only in the 1930s that the phrase of Green Man came into use, when someone recognised the similarity between folkloric traditions and the carvings found in churches. But I wanted to know, how had this pagan image made its way into churches like Southall in the forms of these medieval Green Man carvings? And the church brought the Green Man in with its own symbolism in its sort of, little effigies and carvings, really, in order to get more worshippers in, to get the pagans into church, do you think?
Not so much to bums on seats, but much more about not offending previous faiths.
In other words, church leaders in places like Southall saw the need to incorporate the Green Man into the church as a way of embracing the long-held beliefs of their community. With that in mind, it's time to get back into the chapter house to get a better look at this man for all seasons. As well as the Green Man, there is a Green Woman. This is extremely rare and valuable, and she's over there. There are other faces as well that you can spot. One above the door, now that's the Jewish usurer. He was the moneylender who probably financed the chapter house. These images are out of kilter with the taste of the time, which was for rigid form. Here there is a freedom and a fluidity, surely the reason why people flock here from all over the world. The detail in the carving is not only exquisite, but it's absolutely astonishing. Just look at this plant life. Look at the leaves here. No two leaves are the same. They're all horticulturally correct, and there's 14 different varieties of plant life. There's field maple there, and there's oak leaf there. Not only was he a great draftsman, but he must have studied plant life. It's the freedom of his hand I find so astonishing. Now this one is my favourite one. Not for subject matter, I hasten to add, but for technical merit. What you have to remember here is the mason has carved this, all of these things, out of one solid lump of stone. Look at the undercuts. Look how he's got inside that to sort of work back outwards. You can see the light and shade created by these voids. Now, first of all, you notice the leaf work. You can see that's ivy there, look, with berries sort of clinging on. But if you look underneath that, you can see an observation on real life. 2 hounds ripping a hare apart. I mean, it is a masterpiece, a technical masterpiece.
The man behind this extraordinary stonework is right here in the chapter house itself.
Now that is a self-portrait of the master mason who did all of this wonderful work, bringing this building alive. I am in awe of this chap. We don't know his name. He probably was an itinerant worker who came over from France. His work is absolutely dynamic, and as far as I'm concerned, completely unparalleled.
So, a pagan belief, a folkloric tradition, and a symbol of renewal, and giving back to the people. But can we ever really know exactly who the Green Man was?
He's a conundrum, he's a puzzle which has no answer. And I've never come up with a true black and white single answer as to what he is.
I'm the green man, don't take my
We may
name in
never know
vain.
who he is, but we are left with these wonderful carvings which conjure up another time and place. And for that, we have the Mason of Southwellminster to thank.
You cut me down, I'll spring back green again.
This incredible mold remover gel can restore your bathroom and tiles to their original shine in just 15 minutes. This incredible product eliminates stubborn mold and mildew in seconds without any scrubbing. Take any...
Okay, so we don't want any mold, do we? So, Suffolk. Yeah. I had to listen to it about 3 times before, because the YouTube cut the very beginning of it off. So, so how did I become interested in the Green Man? I've gone to Renaissance fairs for years, many years, to sing, just to suspend reality for a weekend or both. And you encounter all kinds of types, from Star Wars reenactors to Renaissance types at Ren fairs, and the Green Man is there too. But before that, I majored in history with a special interest and a minor in anthropology. What makes people tick? Why does this group or that group decorate their lives with this kind of art or music or that one? It's always fascinated me. So how you translate into a career as a bureaucrat bound entirely to laws and administrative rules. It was how I escaped. I first read The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy in high school, like a lot of people did. But my favorite characters weren't the hobbits or the elves. I loved Tom Bombadil, who unfortunately did not make it into any of the movies, which I think is a crime, and Treebeard. And there's Tom Bombadil. I just was fascinated by him. I loved him and the lore. He was both jolly and perhaps the wisest old one of them all, if you're Lord of the Rings fan, or Hobbit. He's in The Hobbit. Treebeard did make it into the movies. I have to confess, I've never seen any of the movies because I so clearly formed my own image of hobbits and dwarves and elves and everyone else. I didn't want some director to ruin it for me. So they're in my brain, but I did find this. About Treebeard, or there's this quotation, this is from Tolkien. Before there were hobbits in the hills, before dwarves carved their hills of stone, before elves had awoke and wandered in the world, stood the Ents, E-N-T-S, shepherds of trees and guardians of nature. First among them was Fangorn, though many know him by his name, Treebeard. And that's Treebeard. So the next thing is another video, a really short one. Do I need to do something else? Make it, okay. It's a very short video on this one, but.
Oh, Rowan mine, I saw you shine on a summer's day. Upon your head, golden red the crown you bore aloft. Such beautiful verse.
Is it much further?
Don't be hasty. You might call it far, perhaps. My home lies deep in the forest near the roots of the mountain. I told Gandalf I would keep you safe, and safe is where I'll keep you. I believe you will enjoy this next one, too. It's one of my own compositions. Right, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves and the dreams of trees fold. When woodland halls are green and cool and the wind is in the west, come back to me. Come back to me and say my land is best. Oh.
Anyway, the Ents are both wise and fierce and fearsome, and they help win one of the wars in The Two Towers, which is the second book of the trilogy. Let my nerd flag fly high, you know, and all that. So, so veneration of nature goes back to the beginnings of recorded time and before. So I just have a number of images here. This is probably not a 2-hour presentation, as it turns out. This one is cross-eyed, which I think is fun, and has still has gold leaf and paint on it, and it's in Sutton Bangor, in the UK. It's probably been repainted over the years because I doubt that it would last otherwise, but it's fun to see one, perhaps as they were when they were first carved. And this guy with his tongue out is in Lyon Cathedral in France. This one is near where the School of Masons was during the medieval period in Herefordshire. This one, which is has deteriorated, is in St. Michael's Church in Warfield in Berkshire, and St. George's Church in West Somerset. And this example is from the Netherlands. So there are examples. Some of you who like Britbox TV, there's a Midsummer Murders episode all about the Green Man. Yeah, that you might find on BritBox, and that's kind of fun too. So I don't remember the name of it, but I could look it up probably. This one is from Reddenhall in Norfolk, and this is Exeter Cathedral. So, And some of the wooden ones are carved onto benches, other church furniture, misericords, stuff like that. Although I think leaning back against one of those wouldn't be comfortable. But this one is also from Germany. This is from Nuremberg and Brecon in the UK. And this one, Daglingworth, the names. Okay, so there are a lot of folk festivals all around the world, and many of them in Europe celebrate May Day, or the coming of spring, the going of winter, and a lot of them will feature the Green Man. These guys, these are hombres de musgo, or moss men, and it's from Salamanca in Spain. And I think they look like ghillie suits. I know what a ghillie suit is because my brother's a hunter. So, and this one, who's more wood than leaves, is from the Villanera Festival in Cantabria, also in Spain. So, Spain, yeah. And this is a Jack in the Green parade in England, the UK. And of course, there are the pub signs all across England, wherever you might find it. And, whoops, that was the last slide, I guess. So, could you play that last video, please? This is going to be a very short presentation. I should have signed up for 1 hour instead of 2.
The church, a house of God, a place of saints, of worship, of light. But look closer, and you'll see a face. Not of Christ, not a saint, but a man made of leaves. His eyes stare wide, his mouth spews vines, and he is everywhere. Carved into roof beams, crouched above pews, grinning from the stone. But who is he, and why is he hiding in our churches? Welcome back, Darklings. You've seen the angels and the crosses, but did you ever notice the face hidden in the foliage? These leafy faces began appearing in churches from the 11th century onwards, sometimes Romanesque and fierce, sometimes Gothic and grimacing, but always the same haunting image, a human face entwined with leaves, sprouting from its mouth, nostrils, even its eyes. By the 12th, 13th and 14th centuries, they were everywhere, staring down from ceiling arches, peering out from choir stalls, wedged between saints and angels, hidden in places you'd never expect to find them. But mysteriously, they were never spoken of. There's no mention in any church or historical record to explain their meaning. For centuries, these faces were simply there, silent, watching. They didn't even have a name until 1939, when a woman looked up and saw something ancient staring back. Her name was Lady Julia Raglan, and in her now famous article in the journal Folklore, she gave him the name we still use today, the Green Man. And with that name, she gave us a mystery. Raglan proposed that this leafy figure wasn't Christian at all, but a memory of a pagan god of fertility, nature, and rebirth. Drawing on the work of Sir James Fraser, Raglan linked the Green Man to a long line of vegetation deities, gods who die and return with the seasons. She believed the Green Man had survived not just in stone, but in the folk traditions still alive today. Spring festivals like May Day, garlanding, and Jack in the Green. In these leafy celebrations, she saw the same figure, a man dressed in foliage, paraded through town, honoured as the living spirit of the season. And when you see him, covered in vines, crowned with leaves, dancing through the streets, it's easy to believe she might be right. Each spring, in scattered corners of Britain, the Green Man comes alive. Every May Day in Hastings, crowds flock to join in a raucous procession through the streets. A towering Jack-in-the-Green figure leads the way, a man completely encased in greenery, followed by drummers, dancers, and costumed characters. There's singing, drinking, maypole dancing, and finally, Jack is led to a hilltop, where he is ritually stripped of his foliage to symbolically release the spirit of summer. In Castleton, Derbyshire, a man becomes the Garland King. He's placed on horseback, cloaked in a huge bell-shaped frame of leaves and flowers. He parades solemnly through the village with a lady beside him, and at the end of the day, the garland is hoisted up the church tower. And in Edinburgh, at the Beltane Fire Festival held on Calton Hill, the Green Man takes centre stage. His body is painted vivid green, his head crowned with leaves, a living spirit of the wild. He dances through fire alongside the May Queen in a dramatic ritual that ends with his symbolic death and rebirth. All across the UK, springtime summons figures of green, half man, half vegetation, dancing through village lanes and city streets before being ritually stripped once more to awaken the summer. Lady Raglan believed these leafy figures were echoes of something ancient, the very same spirit we see carved into church stone. But there's just one problem. The festival characters she pointed to, Jack in the Green, the Garland King, don't appear in written records until centuries after the Green Man began appearing in churches. The earliest known mention of Jack in the Green comes from 1770 in a report by a visiting Frenchman who described a strange May Day procession in London, led by a man entirely shrouded in foliage. But in earlier accounts, he's curiously absent. When Samuel Pepys described a London May Day parade in 1667, he noted how milkmaids carried garlands upon their pails, but made no mention of any leaf-covered figure. So while May Day and Beltane themselves are much older, there's no trace of any leaf-covered figure, no Green Man, until that 18th century sighting. Historians argue that while these customs feel ancient, the evidence just isn't there, at least not in the way Lady Raglan imagined. Some even suggest Jack in the Green was a later invention, a product of Victorian Romanticism and a growing obsession with Britain's pagan past. But just because something wasn't written down, does that mean it didn't exist? For most of history, the traditions of ordinary people weren't recorded. They simply weren't seen as important enough. In many rural communities, festivals and folklore were passed down orally, via word of mouth, generation to generation, without ever being written down. The debate is far from over, but for now, the hard evidence is lacking. So, if these festival figures aren't the origin, and there's no record to explain the carvings, then who, or what, is the Green Man? If he isn't born from May Day parades, and no Christian text explains him, then we're left with a deeper mystery. Where did he come from? Because although the Green Man seems most at home in medieval English churches, he's been found in places far older and far stranger. In France, a 4th century tomb shows a man with leaves pouring from his mouth. In Germany, Roman sarcophagi bear foliate faces, human features tangled with vines. And in the ruined city of Hatra in modern-day Iraq, a stone face from the 2nd century stares out, its mouth overflowing with leaves. Across Roman villas and ancient temples, from Western Europe to the Near East, the leafy face appears again and again. Long before he was ever named, the Green Man was watching. And yet, no one left us an explanation, no written record, no official meaning. It's possible people once recognized him instantly, a symbol so familiar it needed no words. Or maybe he was already ancient, his meaning already forgotten in antiquity. But since Lady Raglan's study, more theories have emerged, each offering a different glimpse of who he might have been. Some look to symbolism, some to secret messages carved in stone, others turn to mythology. And it's tempting to see him as an echo of the old gods, spirits of growth, wildness, and eternal return. Like the Celtic Cernunnos, often called the Horned God or Lord of the Wild, linked to animals, the forest, fertility, and the underworld. Or Oceanus, the Roman sea god, crowned with seaweed and flanked by sea creatures, or Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and ecstasy, crowned with ivy, draped in vines, a god of both abundance and madness. Even Osiris of Egypt was green-skinned, the color of vegetation, a god of resurrection, the afterlife, and the annual rising of crops. Depictions of these ancient deities, and others, bear a striking resemblance to the green man. Could he be a Christian appropriation of the old gods of fertility and rebirth? Across Europe, the early church often absorbed local beliefs, allowing familiar symbols to take on new meanings within a Christian frame. Some theorists suggest the green man is a similar case, a pagan memory, smuggled into Christian art. But not every leafy face smiles with divine grace. Some snarl, others grimace, and in their twisted mouths and tangled hair, we glimpse something darker, the wild man. A figure of myth and madness, the wild man haunts the edges of medieval art and legend. Hairy, untamed, and often naked, he's not quite beast, not quite man, a creature transformed by the wilderness. You'll find him carved high in the rafters, tucked beneath the seats or lurking along stone pillars. And tellingly, the green man often appears in those very same places. In some churches, you'll even find both. A snarling wild man and a grimacing green man wreathed in vines placed side by side. Perhaps medieval artists saw a connection between the two. Perhaps they are different masks for the same entity. The Old English word wadwos, meaning wild man of the woods, shows up in the 1380s Wycliffe Bible, describing demon-like figures who haunt desolate places. And just a few decades later, in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the hero rides into a strange, ancient forest said to be prowled by wadwos, wild, inhuman creatures that blur the line between man and nature. The Green Knight himself is described as green-skinned, enormous, and powerful. Scholars like Charles Little and William Anderson suggest he may be a fusion, a meeting of green man and wild man traditions, stitched together in one haunting figure. But the wild man is far older than medieval poetry. His roots reach back into Babylon, Rome, even Mesopotamia. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, we meet Enkidu, a wild man raised by animals, covered in hair. He must be tamed before he can join society and unlock his wisdom. In the book of Daniel, the proud king Nebuchadnezzar is driven mad by God. His hair grows wild, his nails become claws, until he is little more than a beast in the field. In ancient tales, shepherds try to capture the wild man. By tying him up, they hope he'll reveal sacred secrets in exchange for his freedom. Even Merlin, in his earliest Welsh form, was once a wild man. Not a wizard in robes, but Merthin Weitht, a warrior broken by grief, who fled into the woods to live like an animal. There, in solitude and madness, he gained the gift of prophecy. And that's the thread that winds through every tale of the wild man, a link between wildness and wisdom. He must be captured to give up his secrets, or tamed before he sees clearly. And perhaps that's why this face appears in our churches. The wild man among the saints may whisper a quiet truth, that knowledge does not come to the untamed, that obedience is the path to wisdom. But there's another possibility, and this is where things get a little strange. Some art historians argue the green man is just a flourish, a decorative tradition passed down through generations of craftsmen. But in medieval times, church sculptors weren't just artisans. They were members of powerful guilds, tightly organized, highly skilled, and shrouded in secrecy. Masons had to master geometry, engineering, and religious iconography. And that knowledge, largely inaccessible to ordinary people, gave them a special kind of authority. They developed secret marks to identify each other's work, and some believe these guilds preserved fragments of ancient wisdom, hidden in plain sight through their carvings. This has led some scholars to suggest the green man was part of a guild tradition. In this reading, it might have been a simple test of skill, a carving to showcase their craftsmanship, or a symbolic motif whose true meaning was known only to guild members. There's no direct evidence, but the silence itself is telling. The green man appears again and again across Europe, and yet not a single historical document explains his presence. in a world of secret brotherhoods and veiled messages, that silence might not be accidental. Others believe the green man served a protective role, like gargoyles perched on the roof to scare away demons, or a symbol of nature's power standing watch over sacred spaces. But there's another possibility, one that reaches far beyond Europe. In temples across India, Indonesia, and Nepal, you'll find a very familiar face, a fierce fanged creature, disgorging leaves, vines, and floral patterns. He is called Kirtimukha, the face of glory, a guardian spirit, a symbol of divine life force, placed above sacred doors to ward off evil. The resemblance is striking, and perhaps not coincidence. Some scholars propose that the green man may have been inspired by these Eastern images, travelling along trade routes or through crusader contact. They were copied into manuscripts which subsequently inspired stonemasons as they searched for visual references for their carvings. But the green man turns up somewhere even more unexpected, not in a forest, not in a church, but in the notebooks of alchemists. In the Renaissance, alchemy wasn't just about turning lead into gold, it was about transforming the self. Alchemists believed that just as trees grow new leaves each spring, a person could grow a new self, shedding bad habits, selfishness or ignorance, and becoming wiser, calmer, more connected to the divine. Some even called this the greening of the soul. And in their books and woodcuts, we start to see something familiar. Faces peering out from leaves, bodies merging with vines and flowers. These leafy figures weren't just decoration, they were symbols of personal transformation. One of the most famous images is the green lion, shown devouring the sun. It represents nature's power to consume and begin again. It's not a green man exactly, but some versions look strikingly similar. A leafy mane, a fierce expression, a wild, consuming energy. And then there's the philosopher's garden, a term alchemists used for the inner world of the soul. They imagined it like a hidden garden inside each person, a place where thoughts, beliefs, and intentions had to be carefully tended. If you neglected it, weeds took over. But if you cultivated it, through study, self-discipline, and spiritual insight, it would flourish. In this reading, the green man isn't just a face in the forest. He's a symbol of the self, transformed. But even transformation has its limits, because the leaves that bud will one day fall. And perhaps that's the final message behind the green man's silent gaze, a memento mori, a reminder that all flesh returns to the earth. His face, tangled in leaves, warns us that nature will one day reclaim our bodies. But from decay comes new life. Death is not the end, but part of the divine cycle. So what do you see in this silent, leafy face? A forgotten god, a hidden message from the Masons, or a mirror reflecting something inside us all? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into forgotten folklore, don't miss the chilling tale behind the magpie rhyme, One for Sorrow, a warning wrapped in verse, and perhaps something darker beneath. See you in a future video.
Well, okay, we won't go into that one. It's about time for a break or questions, and then I'm done. This presentation really isn't going to be 2 hours long. Questions next? Yeah, if there are any. Okay.
This is Fred, Tracy. What is the significance of the vines coming out of the mouth?
No one really knows, other than it's just, and they don't all have that. They, I guess I need to have this more in front of me. They, some of them have vines around the head, some coming out through the mouth. I don't know if it implies imparting wisdom or what. I think the whole imagery is really just kind of lost in the mists of time. So okay.
Good morning. This is Eric. I was an English major as an undergrad at the University of Michigan, and one of the courses I took was a course on medieval literature.
Very cool.
And one of the very popular poems in medieval literature is entitled Gawain and the Green Knight.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know how many know the story, but basically in Camelot at a festival, this large, enormous green creature comes in carrying an axe and challenges anyone there to take a strike at his head, provided he can come back within a year and return the favor.
Okay.
And a young knight Gawain steps up and takes the challenge and nearly beheads him, but the green creature doesn't die.
Okay.
He simply disappears, and it goes on from there. But I just wonder if that could have been influenced by all the Green Man mythology that went on at that time, and it's just another interesting variation of green.
I would think it probably is tied in. The Arthurian legends, I think they predate some of the stone carving by quite a bit, but I'm sure it's all tied in. There's the whole cycle of rebirth as winter ends and spring comes and summer, and then you get the harvest. It's all just the cycle of life, and green is such an important part of that. So.
Hi, Tracy. This is Franca. This is not a question, so I'm sorry. Bear with me here. I have a particular interest in ancient history, and especially pre-Roman. And in pre-Roman history, Silvanus was an actual deity of the forest.
Okay.
And the legends have it that men actually were priests in the forest, and the only way they could be usurped if someone went in there and killed them and then took their place. But that is really rooted into before Jupiter, before Juno, and all of that. So it goes pretty deeply into human history, let's say.
So I'm Mark, and there's a theme that looks, if you look back in the 1200s, they were trying to assimilate the pagan religion into Christian religiosity. And so there was that. They had to link some of their iconographic things, I believe. But where did you find any feminine references? Gaia and Mother Earth and all that. Was there any? Or is it? Of
the carvings, I found one that was a woman. But I didn't, as I said, a lot of them weren't identified with where they were carved, so I didn't include those because I didn't have a source. But I found one picture that was clearly, and in the first video in the Octagon church in Suffolk, there was one female head in that church. So,
Okay, I'm Tom. You probably knew that already.
I knew that.
I don't have a question so much as I have a comment, because of course, as we know, nobody has any answers.
Yeah, right.
But it occurred to me, in fact, this occurred to me coming down to campus this morning. We happened to see one of the frequent iconic images of the Sasquatch on one of the cars. And it occurred to me, thinking of it in Jungian terms, that these archetypes tend to crop up in cultures all over the world because they relate to some basic, human archetypal yearnings that we have. And it just occurred to me, seeing that the Sasquatch, being a mythic figure, being human and animal at the same time, might be kind of the Northwest version of the Green Man.
It could be. And then growing up in Eugene, in Springfield, there's the wild man of Winberry Creek that my father used to say he swore he saw it when he was hunting, but we didn't believe him.
Thank you so much, Tracy. This is Debbie. And I think you've got our imaginations running wild. And one of the connections that I was interested in was that your talk reminded me of Da Vinci when he was giving advice to some artists. He said, well, look at it, look at the wall, look for stains, and see what you see, and make it what you see. Pareidolia, the idea that we see faces in like trunks of trees.
Yes, right.
And I wondered if you did some exploration on that, because boy, it just seems...
Some of the stranger videos on YouTube about the Green Man go into all of the neo-pagan subcultures that you can find in a lot of places, and they do have lots of carved trees, and you can actually buy, I think they're resin, but you can to put in a tree. And if I thought that it would last past the neighborhood kids, I'd love to put a face in the tree that's right outside my living room, just see what people would think. So, but it'd probably disappear. So.
I don't see any more questions.
Okay.
So let's thank Tracy.
Okay.
I want to invite you up to see her, the very first thing that she made, too. It's impressive.